justification to say that they can cure the ballots and write the address on it and count it anyway. There were tens of thousands of ballots just like that that were cured, and that's only one example. That's one example in one state. But it's the same story in every swing state, every single one of them. Point is, the fraud is blatant. It has never been at a greater scale than the fraud that we saw in this election. Everybody knows the election was stolen. Republicans' confidence in the election system is at 30%. It went from 70% halved, less than half, to 30% this week. And that's because everybody knows it. But here's the trick. They're counting on people, and specifically you, Trump supporters, to stay in their houses and complain about it online. They thought that that's what we would do. They thought that we would stay at home and tweet about it and post about it on Facebook, and they'd censor us there, and then they get away with it. But we're not remaining in our homes. We're on the streets now. And
stop donating.
We're in front of the state capitals, and we're not leaving until the state legislatures allocate their electoral votes for President Trump for another 4 years. Michigan is Trump country. The United States is Trump country. And we're going to get another 4 years. But this is critical. And I talked about this on my show last night. It's actually something that I'm a little bit nervous about. Right now, we're seeing liberals across the country celebrating their perceived victory. We know that the mainstream media called the election for Joe Biden on Saturday. The mainstream media does not decide who becomes the president. But they called it, and we see the liberals celebrating in New York City and Los Angeles and D.C. And what concerns me is this. We know the fraud occurred. People are turning out. They're talking about it. It seems like the president will get to the bottom of this, and I am optimistic about this. I see they're sending in Corey Lewandowski, Rudy Giuliani. I see they're sending in Eric Trump and Don Jr. And I'm a little bit optimistic that the fraud will be exposed, investigations will occur, witnesses will be called, and eventually the fraud will be exposed and the proper electoral process will take place. What I'm concerned about is watch and wait and see the mood sour from the left when they start to see the pathway open up for the president to remain in power for another 4 years. My point to you is this. This is, believe it or not, the easy part. We're out here and we're staying out here, and I think we will push through to get those electoral votes. The real question is, can we keep the pressure on when the left meets us and engages us? Because I'll tell you, we're out here in the streets, and we need to be out here really every day. I think people should be at the state capitals almost every day to make sure the media knows this is happening, to make sure the state legislatures know this is happening. But what's more is we need to shift, and we need to start calling up the state legislators. If you're in Michigan, call your state legislators and tell them to stop the steal, to prevent the fraud from happening. Allocate Michigan's 16 electoral votes for President Trump. Because if we don't call them and we don't put the pressure on them, you know that the left will. And the left has something that we don't. They have the mainstream media, so we're at a huge disadvantage. And that's the big problem. But I'll tell you, I look at the president and I look at what's happening in the country, and it doesn't bother me that we have to be out here. It didn't actually bother me to have to drive out here 3.5 hours from Chicago and be here in the cold. And we're all going to be out there in D.C. Who's going to be out there in D.C. this week? That's going to be a good one. If you don't know, we're going to be in D.C. on Saturday at noon at Freedom Plaza. But it doesn't bother me to do this because I look at President Trump. And how great is our president? How great is he?
A leader.
How deal, Trump?
This is a person who was a billionaire, a celebrity. He lived at the top of a skyscraper made out of marble and gold with his name on it. And he went through a process of defeating 16 idiot Republicans in the primary. He went through and defeated Hillary Clinton. He put up with fake scandal after fake scandal. They investigated his tax returns, fake impeachment, fake Russia hoax, fake polls, fake media, and now they're trying to take away the presidency with a fake election. The president did not have to do this. He did not have to have his reputation thrown in the mud, his legacy tarnished. He did not have to be subject to all of this corruption. He could have lived out the rest of his life at the top of Trump Tower and never done anything about this country, this screwed up country, frankly, and all of its problems, but he did. And in some ways, it shouldn't have happened. In some ways, I think the country didn't deserve for this to happen. And yet one man took a stand and it made all the difference. I think that is an inspiration to all of us. If we're all out here, and if we fight for the president that fought for us, we can get another 4 years of President Trump, probably better than the first term. So I want to turn it over to John Doyle to say a few words. Let's hear him.
How we doing, Michigan?
Yeah!
I'm a native Michigander myself, a little bit of a Midwestern nationalist. I'm sure Nick is as well. Many of you are probably a little bit surprised to see me out here. I know that the Doyleist Groyper collab was one that many wanted to see for quite some time. But the problem is that someone like Nick, unfortunately, carries a little bit of controversy to his name. And he knows that, which is why he texted me about this on Sunday night, and he told me about it, and he asked if I wanted to come out and bring my people. And I simply responded with the screenshot from Spider-Man 3, when Spider-Man and the Green Goblin link up arms at the final battle. Because really what this comes down to is if you support Donald Trump and you support the idea of putting America first, if you do not unify with other people that are also doing that, you will be purged. We've already seen this happening from people like Dan Crenshaw, people like, what's the wheelchair kid's name? Madison Cawthorn, publishing an op-ed on the future of conservatism, and then it sounds like Paul Ryan, except a little bit younger and a little bit more entrepreneurial experience. And so that we're all out here today is a tremendous first step. And that's something that I don't know how many of you actually watch my videos that I try to communicate quite often, is that we're all going to have to be very comfortable with making sacrifices. And, not to take the boomer oh, well, what about these snowflakes if they had to storm Normandy? But coming out here in the cold is a very good thing to do, because for what Trump is going through as far as the test of character, to see that we are out here with him and supporting him, I can only imagine would be very white-pilling for Mr. Trump. And ultimately, we are going to be successful, because no coalition of people that is degenerate and that lacks discipline and that lacks God could ever be successful in the long term. They are basically riding a wave. They are basically riding a wave of wealth and then institutional power, but eventually that is going to come crashing down. And that is when people like us, young men, come and take the country back. I'll tell you a story. I was in Orlando, Florida this weekend. I don't know if I can dox this guy, but we actually have a friend in the NBA, believe it or not, and he invited me down to this prayer event. And so I was walking through downtown Orlando on Friday night. I don't know if you've ever been to downtown Orlando. Very degenerate, filthy town. You've got, sorry old people, sorry women, but whores walking around. And I'm looking at these people and I'm like, wow, that's so depraved. Let's keep walking. And then Saturday afternoon, I kid you not, these same faces were out there, except now they have Joe Biden t-shirts. What?